My name is Anne, and I lived in America during the time of the 13 colonies. I am 26 years old, and I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have seen many things in the time that I have lived here. Things are beginning to change, and I would like to tell you the story of this through my eyes. Philadelphia was the very first settlement in Pennsylvania. Around 4,500 people live here, and we are a very busy seaport. I looked up the word seaport, and it can be defined as a port or harbor on or accessible to a seacoast and providing a place for boats to stay. My colony is always busy and full of lots of traffic in the streets. We have many print shops and shoemaker stores too. My husband works as a shoemaker in town. Workers bring many wheelbarrows of supplies to him and the other stores, which makes for a busy town in the day. I like my colony very much, but people have started to talk in the colonies. People are becoming unhappy, my family along with them. Ever since the French and Indian War, a war between Great Britain and France over the control of our new world, the colonies and land, things have started to get bad. Great Britain won the war and after wanted to make an effort to keep peace in the Ohio Territory. A territory is an area of land and waters that belongs to a region, state, or nations. In order to keep peace in the territory between the Indians and the colonists, Britain made the decision that no colonists were allowed to move to the territory. The official statement of this is called the Proclamation of 1763. A proclamation is an official announcement of something. This proclamation angered many of us colonists, especially my family. My husband, along with many other colonists, had fought alongside the British against the French in the war so that we could settle the Ohio lands. On top of this, Britain began to tax us. They believed that we should share in the expenses of the French and Indian War. Because of this, in 1764, Parliament passed a law known as the Sugar Act that taxed us. Parliament is the lawmaking body of Great Britain. This act that they passed caused us to pay a tax on wine and sugar and other things that were shipped to us from countries other than Great Britain. My husband and I just couldn't believe how unfairly they were treating us. Many of us colonists became angry and we refused to pay. We wanted our own lawmakers within our colony to decide on taxes, and we didn't want to affect trade with other countries in a bad way. Next, Parliament passed the Stamp Act, which taxed all printed goods that we wished to buy. We hated this act as well because it was passed without our permission. In Britain, we had to pay taxes, but in the colonies here, we elected representatives to decide how much to collect in taxes. We had no representatives in Parliament, and it wasn't fair to us. We called it taxation without representation, and because we were so angry, we began to boycott British goods. To boycott something means to refuse to deal with a person, country, or business as a means of protest. British merchants now had few customers and asked that Parliament do away with the Stamp Act. They agreed, but a year later they passed the Townshend Act, taxing paper, paint, lead, tea, and glass that was sold to our colonies from Britain. 4 years later, because we again boycotted, Parliament repealed the act, but continued to make us pay a tax on tea. The Quartering Act was passed as well, which forced us to house British soldiers and pay for their food and drink. My family had to quarter, or house, several British soldiers. They were rude, and it was expensive for us. In the same year, we heard about a massacre that occurred in Boston. A massacre is a cruel, random killing. I am told it happened like this. One night, a group of colonists from Boston began throwing snowballs at 8 British soldiers. The soldiers shot at them, killing 5 colonists in all. Our family couldn't believe it. 3 years after that, again in Boston, a group of colonists dressed as Indians broke onto British ships and threw hundreds of crates of tea into the harbor. The king was furious, but we were furious as well with how we had been treated. It was time to take action. It was time for us to prepare for war.